Toni Morrison, the Nobel laureate, whose book I'm reading, that is Recitatif. A short story, Recitatif, by Toni Morrison, winner of the Nobel Prize in Literature. Introduction by Zadie Smith. From the inner jacket cover, I read, a beautiful, arresting short story by Toni Morrison, the only one she ever wrote, I believe, about race and the relationships that shape us through life, with an introduction by Zadie Smith. Toiler and Roberta have known each other since they were 8 years old and spent 4 months together as roommates in the St. Bonaventure shelter. Inseparable at the time, they lose touch as they grow older, only to find each other later at a dinner, then at a grocery store, and again at a protest. Seemingly at opposite ends of every problem and in disagreements each time they meet, the two women still cannot deny the deep bond their shared experience has forged between them. Written in 1980 and anthologized in a number of collections, this is the first time Recitatif is being published as a standalone hardcover. In the story, Toller's and Roberta's races remain unambiguous. We know that one is white and one is black, but which is which and who is right about the race of the woman the girls tormented at the orphanage? Morrison herself described the story as an experiment in the removal of all racial codes from a narrative about two characters of different races for whom racial identity is crucial. Recitatif is a remarkable look into what keeps us together and what keeps us apart, and about how perceptions are made tangible by reality. That's the ISBN for you. Back in a jacket, you have something written on. Go through it. Toni Morrison is the author of 11 novels and 3 essay collections. She received the National Book Critics Circle Award, the Pulitzer Prize, and in 1993, the Nobel Prize in Literature. She died in 2019. Her books are available in vintage paperback, also available from Penguin Random House, audio and Random House, large print. Back of jacket photograph, this is copyright 1978, Helen Marcus, print National Portrait Gallery, Smithsonian Institution, jacket designed by John Gale. So that's it. I'm going to read from Zadie Smith's introduction, in which he writes that we never learn definitely, no matter how closely we read, is which of these girls is black and which white. We will assume we can insist, but we can't be sure. And this despite the fact that we get to see them grow up, becoming adults who occasionally run into each other. We eavesdrop when they speak, examine their clothes, hear of their husbands, their jobs, their children, their lives. The crucial detail is withheld, a puzzle of a story, then a game. Only Toni Morrison does not play. When she called Recitatif an experiment, she meant it. The subject of the experiment is the reader. And then Zadie Smith further writes, but before going any further into the ingenious design of this philosophical brain teaser, the title itself was worth a good long look. Recitatif, that's a pronunciation. It means musical declamation of the kind usual in the narrative and dialogue parts of opera, and oratorio, sung in the rhythm of ordinary speech with many words on the same note. singing in recitative. Now, so here in this story, though, the challenge of capturing ordinary speech has been deliberately complicated. For many words are here to be sung on the same note. That is, we will hear the words of Tola and the words of Roberta, and although they are perfectly differentiated the one from the other, we will not be able to differentiate them in one way we really want to. An experiment can easily be imagined but difficult to execute. In other words, to make it work, you need to write in such a way that every phrase precisely straddled in the line between characteristically black and white. American speech, and that's the high wire act in an eagle-eyed country ever alert to racial codes, adept in categorization, in which most people feel they can spot a black or white speaker with their eyes closed precisely because of the tone and the rhythm peculiar to their language. And beyond language is a racialized system. All manner of things will read as peculiar to one kind of person or another. The food a character eats, the music they like, where they live, how they work, black things, white things, things that are peculiar to our people and peculiar to theirs. One of the questions of recitative is precisely what that phrase peculiar to really signifies. For we tend to use it variously, not realizing what we do. It can mean that which characterizes. It can mean that which belongs exclusively to. It can read as that which is an essential quality of. These three are not the same. The first suggests a tendency, the second implies some form of ownership, and the third speaks of essences and therefore of immutable natural laws. And recitative, these differences prove crucial, as we will see. She writes, this is all, and I'm reading from Introduction by Zadie Smith. Much of the mesmerizing power of recitative lies in that first definition of peculiar to, that which characterizes. As readers, we urgently want to characterize the various characteristics on display. But how? My mother danced all night and Roberta's was sick? Well now, what kind of mother tends to dance all night? A black one or a white one? And whose mother is more likely to be sick? Is Roberta a blacker name than Toiler? Or vice versa? And what about voice? Toiler's narrates it in the first person, and so we may have the common sense feeling that she must be the black girl, for her author is black. But it doesn't take much interrogating of this must to realize that it rests on rather shallow autobiographical ideas of authorship that would seem wholly unworthy of the complex experiment that has been set before us. Besides, Morrison was never a poor child in a state institution. She grew up solidly working class in integrated Lorain, Ohio. And autobiography was never a very strong element of her work. Her imagination was capacious. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. No autobiography will not get us very far here. So we listen a little more closely to Tola. And Mary, that's my mother, she was right. Every now and then she would stop dancing long enough to tell me something important, and one of the things she said was that they never washed their hair and they smelled funny. Roberta sure did. Smelly funny, I mean. So when the big bozo, nobody ever called her Mrs. Itkin, just like nobody ever said Saint Bonaventure when she said, Tola, this is Roberta, this is Tola. make each other welcome. And then somebody says, I said my mother won't like you putting me in here. The game is afoot. Morrison bypasses any detail that might imply an essential quality of slyly evades whatever would belong exclusively to one girl or the other and makes us sit instead in this uncomfortable double dealing world of that which characterizes, in which Toller seems to move in a moment from black to white to black again, depending on the nature of your perception. Like the dress on the internet, no one could ever agree on the color of. Well, it's a long introduction, somebody in there, after all, by Zadie Smith. And I'm just going to read the end of it. She writes, still like most readers of Recitatif, I found it impossible not to hunger to know who the other was, Toller or Roberta. Oh, I urgently wanted to have it straightened out, wanted to sympathize warmly in one sure place, turn cold in the other, to feel for the somebody and dismiss the nobody. But this is precisely what Morrison deliberately and methodically will not allow me to do. It's worth asking ourselves why Recitatif reminds me that it is not essentially black or white to be poor, oppressed, lesser than exploited, ignored. The answer to what the hell happened to Maggie is not written in the stars or in the blood or in the genes or forever predetermined by history. Whatever was done to Maggie was done by people. People like Toller and Roberta. People like you and me. Just read for yourself and enjoy the short story. Recitatif, a story by Toni Morrison. Happy reading.